So the story is how to get better at pickleball if you can't afford coaching. And this person says, I watch YouTube videos and drill at the walls. I'm coming up on 2 years of playing now and still suck. Based on players who demolished me, I'd say I'm at a 2.5 level. And when I do drop an initiated dink game, I get lobbed and it throws me out of whack. My forehand drives still end up in the net or sail out. My drops are consistent, but even when it can result in a high drop/dink, that players can step back and then drive to keep me back. So basically, he's just not the best. I can win most hands fights at the net, but since adding weight to my paddle, it's been inconsistent. Group lessons are affordable, but don't go over technique. Private lessons are expensive, $120 to $160 in my area. Not sure how to improve at this point. Don't have a friend interested in pickleball who wants to drill, and I currently am the lowest ranked player at my court, which is okay. So anytime I put a paddle down, people put their paddles away from mine. So
that's so sad.
You know what? That's okay.
Yeah.
It feels like it's not even a real person.
As a pro pickleball player, what would you tell him to do?
Well, I think the first thing that I would tell him would be to start watching my podcast, and it's all coaching. So, I think that one of the good things about pickleball is there's so much content now. 2 years ago when I started playing, there was probably a tenth of the content available publicly for free on YouTube, and there was not a lot of ways to get better. I think you had to have private lessons. You had to find people in your area that were better than you that could teach you, and now you've got so many sources. On YouTube, you can just plug in pickleball and you'll see all these different content creators. I've got some ones that I like. I think Enhanced Pickleball is really good. I think Kyle Kazuda, kind of an annoying dude, but he's really good at teaching. So we're gonna, shout him out. And I think there's a lot of different ways to get better. I think it's almost being force-fed to you, the content these days on YouTube. So I don't think you have to pay anything. I think it's pretty zero cost to actually get better at pickleball and get the advice that you need. So I probably shouldn't be saying this because I am someone who charges for private lessons. But I think that if you can go on YouTube, you can find a lot of free content. I'm also glad that his or her, whoever this person is, their drops are consistent. They're already past me in one category. So that's good. Although I'm not susceptible to the lob, this player seems to be. I think the lob is, in my personal opinion, the shot of 2024. I'm really confident. I think both of my partners are hitting a lot of lobs. Matt hits a ton of them, Anna hits a ton of them. I don't have the confidence to hit the lob yet. I've been practicing, and then I go out there and I play the tournament, and I don't want to do it. I get too nervous. But I think the lob is really important. But overall, as far as the last part of that is concerned, being the worst player at your court and having people remove their paddles when you put your paddle down, that's just tough. I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that. So,
of course you haven't.
Yeah, I mean, there's gotta be some sort of solution for that, but I don't think I'm your guy.
You know what? And that's fair.
I feel like when I started playing as nobody who had a tennis background, I played softball, but I think people still do that to this day. When the challenge courts. So you go on the challenge courts and then they judge you if you're not good enough. But I still believe, in my opinion, if you think that you're okay to maybe go with the big dogs, then you should go in and try it, because you only get better if you play with better people, in my opinion. Do you think that's true?
For sure. Well, I think it should be 25% of the time you should be the best player on the court, and then 25% of the time you should be the worst player on the court, and then 50% of the time you should be pretty much relatively equal, because I think that gives you the opportunity, if you're that quarter of the time, if you're the best player on the court, you could work on taking more balls, being more aggressive, and then that other 25% of the time where you're the worst player on the court, it's for example, me in the finals this past Sunday, I think it's definitely a good experience to work on being targeted maybe, or having people try to hit the ball to you So no, I think because some people say, you always want to be the worst player on the court, or you want to be, that's the only way to get better. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think you want a good blend of all of those different experiences.
Totally.
Awesome.
And I'm feeling like, if he doesn't have anyone to drill with, I'm thinking like Christian Alshon vibes, like drill with the wall. I think that's always...
I don't know if we want to end up, I don't know if we want to use Christian as an example.
You know what, I just see his like drilling with the wall videos a lot, so that's where that came from.
No, I think this is just such a sad story. People are putting the paddles away from him. He's got nobody to drill with. This is just, I don't know.
Sounds like me in a few years.
Maybe this is a reason for him to just start getting better. Maybe it's
He's been playing for 2 years.
Oh.
Also, on the point of what James said about, like, watching stuff on YouTube, I will say, like, I don't play a lot of pickle, but I watch, like, every tournament and, like, all the days. And, like, a part of me is like, oh, I can go out and, like, kill.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, it's because I, like, know the shots, but I don't practice them. So, like, what do you think, like, is the ratio of, like, watching a tutorial or, like, watching, like, clips and then, like, going out and practice? Like, do you think you need to do both, or is, like, just watching, you think you could just go out and, like, do well?
I think watching is really important the better that you get. So if you're a 3-0, I don't know how much you'll actually improve by watching me play, but I think this player is probably closer to 3-0. I mean, if people don't want to play with
2.5.
He said maybe a 2.75, so.
Yeah, so like how much is a 2.75 going to get better by watching me play? I don't know. Maybe not a lot. But I think that there is some benefit to watching the pros and maybe just getting an idea of how they structure points, watching how they come in, and maybe you'll see how they hit a third shot, and then sometimes they'll stay if it's too high, and then sometimes they'll go right in if it's good. Just those really basic things. But I think that if you are below a 3.5, I think it's most important to just get out there and play a lot and drill a lot. So obviously, they don't have anyone to drill with. They don't have any friends. Or whatever. Just get out there and just try to play as much as you can.
Totally. You have anything to add?
I think let's get into your famous SportsCenter point that we had this last tournament. James, I was sitting right behind the board when you hit that shot, and I was like, okay, this is a big one. This is going to be on SportsCenter. And I saw you go to Anna, and you're like, stay focused.
No, I loved Anna's reaction to that. She was like...
And then she was like, oh my God. And then you went up to her and you said, stay focused. Stay focused. So what was your mentality after? Did you think that shot was going to go in, first of all?
I wasn't thinking anything while I hit that shot. I saw that it went in, and I didn't really realize that it was so good. I mean, everybody was like, whoa, that's so amazing. I'm like, guys, we're in the semifinals. It's 5-5 in game 2. This is not the time to be celebrating a shot. So no, I didn't really react that much. I thought, okay, yeah, it was a good shot, and it's cool to hit. I think the best part about the shot was that it wasn't like a trick shot for fun. It was really the only option that I had. I think I was on a dead run, it was behind me, and instead of hitting a backhand slice, I used the other side of the paddle because it was so far behind me. So it was really the only thing I could have done. So I wasn't really trying to hit any sort of cool trick shot. I was just, I don't even know, I kind of just blacked out and just hit the shot. And I didn't really realize that it was such a good shot or whatever until after. And then I looked at my Instagram, and I had more Instagram notifications than I've ever had in my life. And especially when it was on SportsCenter. But the thing is, I actually changed my phone number 2 weeks ago. So I got on SportsCenter, I got number 1 on SportsCenter, and I got 4 texts. There's only 10 people who can reach me now. So it was kind of a weird experience.
Yeah.
Why did you change your phone number?
Stalker.
Yeah, too many fans.
Getting too famous, James?
No, that's not why. It's a long story, but no cool reason. I wish it was a cooler reason.
So you went after.
Make up a cool reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, make up a cool reason.
You have 2 phones now, just like one's business, one's personal. Totally.
Yeah, exactly.
So we asked Fed this question too, because your point had like a lot to do with like your wingspan, like you're a tall person and like also wingspan. And so this person on Reddit said, I have this stinking feeling that wingspan is going to be more critical to professional pickleball in the near future than it is for even basketball. Even as someone who enjoys a competitive singles match from time to time and played tennis competitively, there's no way in my prime I'd be able to do half of this based on needing. This comment is on the point of Fed and Jaume, but I feel like this like has to do with you too. Like, how do you think like your wingspan like gives you an advantage, and do you think that also gives other players like a disadvantage with like Jaume and Fed, like that point that was on SportsCenter too was like so quick and like wasn't necessarily about that, but do you think it is more like you're in an advantage for your size?
Yeah. I think that wingspan is actually something that people might not know this, but it varies. Even it's not solely dependent on your height. So you could be 6'2" and have a 6'2" wingspan, which is pretty normal. Your wingspan is supposed to be actually equal to your height. Mm-hmm. And for me, I'm 6'2.5", maybe 6'3". I don't know. I used to tell girls I was 6'3" in college. I'm probably like 62.5. My wingspan.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but my wingspan is actually 6'6".
Oh,
Interesting.
Yeah, like some people just have longer arms than their height. It's just I don't know. And so I think that it could be an advantage because when you're reaching into the kitchen line to attack balls out of the air, when you're in dinking exchanges, it matters a lot. I think that when you're playing singles or pro mixed, which has a lot of similarities to singles, some people might not like that I just said that, but it does. Pro mixed has a lot of similarities to singles if you're the guy and you're trying to
So you're playing singles.
Yeah, so it actually does matter the farther you can reach side to side. But I don't think it's necessarily something that's going to make or break anybody. I mean, Jaume is an unbelievable singles player, and I played him in doubles, and he played really well. And his wingspan's probably 5'4", right? I don't know how tall he is, but he's not tall.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't, it doesn't really matter. I mean, pickleball, the court is so small, and I think there's also advantages to being smaller. I think that if you're shorter, it's easier to change direction more quickly because there's less low to high. You're kind of just like Jaume is kind of like a water bug, he's just kind of it goes so quickly. So I think there's advantages and disadvantages, but I think overall I would probably take being tall. I mean, I wouldn't change it.
So Fed actually said kind of the opposite, where he was like, I think it matters, but not as much as people think. Because for like an example, Jaume, he doesn't have the wingspan, but he can still be, a great singles player and doubles player, like you said. So do you think that wingspan? So you think wingspan matters more in doubles?
Yeah, I think that in singles, I don't even know how much height or wingspan matters. No, I don't disagree with that. I think that in singles, I have no idea. It's such an unsolved game. Ben has said that maybe the ideal singles player is like a really tall guy who can also move really well side to side. Like Daniil Medvedev in tennis, he's like a top 5 tennis player, which I shouldn't even be talking about tennis. Who cares about tennis?
Yeah.
But you never know. I mean, Jaume is like 5'5" or something. I mean, Hayden is a really good singles player, and he's like 5'6". So you don't really, I don't know if it's necessary, but I think in doubles you could probably see more of it's more clear and straightforward what the advantages would be of being tall. And then there's not as many disadvantages probably because you're not necessarily using side-to-side quickness as much in doubles. But you're obviously going to be benefited by being taller, earning more, taking more balls out of the air. But there are so many advantages and disadvantages. I also think that being smaller, you might actually have faster hands because it's a shorter lever to go from side to side. So if you're like 7 feet tall and you're trying to switch from a backhand to a forehand, that's probably tougher than it is for somebody who's really small. So there's so many advantages and disadvantages that I think it's tough to say. I think it's definitely unsolved. Like in a sport like tennis or basketball, it's pretty solved. You know, you look at tennis, the top 100, most of those guys are pretty tall, or at least over like 6 feet. But in pickleball, I don't know, it's so new. And I also don't want to be like the tall guy that's saying, oh yeah, being taller is better, right? So, like, I don't want to be that guy. I just don't know. So I'll leave it at that.
What do you think, like, the top pickleball player in 10 years physically will, like, look like? Do you think...
Let me look at myself.
let me go to the mirror. But, like, you know, like, what's, like, the body type? Or do you think it's more of, like, the mental side of it? Like, people always say, like, Ben Johns is playing chess the whole time he's playing pickleball or whatever. Like, what do you think?
Well, I actually have no idea because, I mean...
Yeah, predict the future, please.
Yeah, well, like, apparently China is, like, getting really serious about making some sort of, you know, they want to win the Olympics in pickleball, and there are going to be a lot of ping pong players, I would imagine, that are going to try to get very serious about pickleball, and they tend to be a little bit smaller. So you just never know, but I think one thing with ping pong players, because people have said, oh, maybe ping pong players will come in and dominate pickleball, but I don't think they're going to have two-handed backhands, because in ping pong it's one-hand backhand. So that's a pretty big deal, and not having a two-handed backhand is a disadvantage. So I think that in 10 years it could be, I don't know, like it could be a guy that's like 5'8" and just like really athletic and really fast.
Yeah.
I think at the top of the game, the biggest differentiator is actually the mental side. Because everybody's really good at pickleball in the top 5 or the top 10. And it's not, I don't think it's necessarily who's playing more chess or any sort of like these complex, it's really not complex stuff. I think it's just who can stay more focused and stay more present for a longer period of time.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, is that why you told Anna, stay focused?
Stay focused.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons.
One of the reasons.
Okay, well,
I have one more question for you.
Go ahead.
Did you and Anna meet on the pickleball court?
We met like 30 feet from a pickleball court.
Aww.
So there was like some sort of pickleball tournament going on in Delray. Well, I guess I don't know if we necessarily met at that time because we played tennis together growing up, like at different tournaments and stuff. And like she had seen me and she had remembered who I was. I actually didn't remember her or knew who she was, but that's okay.
Okay.
Liar.
Subtle flex. Yeah.
We met at like a tournament and she was, I think she had just played and then she was like, James, like, do you remember me from tennis? And I was like, oh, yeah. And that was how we met.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on our Pickleball Reddit story series.
Yes, thank you, James. We appreciate you coming on.
Yes.
Sure.
All right.
Thanks. We'll see you in Arizona.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Bye.
Thanks, James.